Good evening. This is the Elliott wave update for the NASDAQ 100 for Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. Looks like to me that the market chose option A from yesterday's or last night's update. And within that, I had laid out that we were within an ABC decline going down, and that we still needed to do the C wave. And that is the option that the market took today. And it was fun and it was a good one. But let's begin where we are, kind of do a quick review. And I still want to lay out, or try to lay out 3 scenarios that could be in play. So I'm still labeling it that the high at 16,767, 768 is the completion point for the 5th of the 5th of the 5th, up to cycle degree and the super cycle 3rd. So we're in the beginning infancy stages of a multi-year corrective phase. And already within this corrective phase, there have been bucketful of opportunities to trade and to trade with the market. And the market has been making fantastic moves. And if we don't question them and we just kind of flow with them and take a posture of, or a mindset of that, to know what the who, what, where, when, or why is to really stop your mindset and try to grasp too many facts that are just whizzing by. And so it becomes more that you trade a market technically, you trade according to price action, you just go with the flow and let somebody else choose why. And then whatever it's being chosen does follow through. And that then becomes apparent within the Elliott waves. So what I got going on, I'm thinking that we still are labeling at the high. And right now, this still can be a intermediate wave 1 completion point 4 or an intermediate wave A completion point. And so we still have the preferred view, which is the intermediate degree decline. An intermediate 5 waves down is what I believe is in force right now. Now, we can still be within the intermediate wave 2 corrective bounce as well. So within that, I've labeled this as A, and we're still within that B wave. So, but both, now here's the option 2, and then I'll go into more detail when I drop down to the hourly chart. Option 2 would suggest that this was 1, but all of that rally, it was an ABC, and I'd have to really figure that one out, but it was an ABC, and that's all we're going to get for 2. Or this is A, this is B, excuse me, this is A, and this is minor B, and you get a big C failure. All kinds of things can be included, but that I do not think at all. But if this was the entire intermediate wave 2 corrective bounce, then we are beginning an intermediate 3rd wave decline. Could this be 1, 2, and we're dropping in the 3rd? Not so, but it's going to, this is on a daily chart. Let me drop it down real quick because now we're talking a little bit more granular and you got to see it to understand it. In fact, I got to go all the way down to the 30. So if we're thinking that we're dropping off of this high, 1 of 3, 2 of 3, or 1 of 3, it could be really huge. But right now we're just going to say 1 of 3, 2 of 3, and this is 1 of 3 of 3. So even if it's an ABC, so I'm going to cover both right now. If we're believing that we might be in the start of that larger 3rd wave, and we're in that first 5 waves down, and within that first 5 waves, we are now beginning on the 3rd, and it should be magnanimous if this is the play. So going further, if we're counting this to be a 5-wave structure coming off, this at best is 1 of C or 1 of 3. So we got a second wave to kind of put in here. We may have done that because they're kind of pulling it down from that high, which is fine. But if this level holds and we go back up, then we're getting a nice second wave. And then it should roll. And should we get another intense sell-off, a little bit more intense right there in the middle than what we saw so far, but we'd be looking for much lower levels again at some point tomorrow. And all kinds of things are triggering it. So again, not looking towards finding a reason, but looking at where the market can go to. So the third leg of within this either C wave or wave three, this next segment can really pick up some steam and can really begin to drop. Again, not knowing or not seeing exactly where, and I'm going to drop down one more to the 15 so that we can now look at the inside of this. Okay, because what I'm going to try to figure out is where this little wave two can go. A little wave two can come all the way back to 14,950 and be okay. And that would be quite the little pop off of that low. As long as it does it in an ABC, and then we would be looking for the market to turn again and start to head lower. Now I can move back out to that hourly chart because we're looking for these. Where can this go? Well, we have a couple of Fibonacci. We have retracements, which would cover the B wave. Okay, if this is still a part of intermediate wave two, which is a bounce, and this is an ABC, we would be looking for it to complete 14,380, maybe, and then, but this has got a double crossover, 50% and 200%. So here, that's basically 14,100 plus or minus 10, right? 14,010 or 14,390. So you're going to get all around that level. And below that, then we have 138.98. So, basically 13,900. All the way down to 13,832. So we have zones if this really gets pushed. Now, if it starts getting down here, it is going to begin to look like this. We're going to be throwing a little bit more weight to this additional count, showing that this is an A wave, but what if it's the entire intermediate two and we're dropping in a third? We're going to be looking for these levels to be broken. So continuing all of the views and how these are the possibilities, one of them is, of course, is that this thing just keeps going. And it picks up the volatility, it picks up the momentum, and next thing you know, we're down 314, we're down to 14,100, we're down here. I don't, it could be a straight shot, no doubt, but that would be some pretty strong selling. But the bounces, please be aware, the bounces off are going to be just as wicked. So you might want to be continuing to look for sell entries because the whole momentum of the market is showing you down. But the bounces up off are going to be bigger than what we would normally be looking for. So please pay attention to the speed, to the volatility, because it's going to move in both directions. But again, when that begins, then we are looking at, as a minimum, I'd be looking for this all to bottom below 14,725, which I believe is the current area right there. So we have additional where the wave C would be 100% of the length of the A wave, and that is at 14,652. Drop this down to the 30-minute as I'm trying to make sure that we're all clear on our numbers. So we come down here that 100% where this C wave would be equal to that A wave is sitting at 14,652. So, you kind of got a little bit above, a little bit below, of course. But if it keeps going, because this appears to be a 1 and we can get a 2 in and then it drops, it could get pretty deep. and it could keep going. So if it breaks there, then you're definitively looking for next level, and there's a big hole there. That's another $120 right there. And then between this one and that one is 90. So there is room here. And then we have the 3A2 for the additional count or view, and that's coming in at 14,380. So all of these levels come into play, and the market can turn off any of them. And it fits in what one of the patterns that I am presenting. Okay, so again, if it is just a B wave, then I'm only looking for the C wave to come down and put in a new low and to have 5. Now, the fact that it did 5 to here, and this would be a 2, so it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We still can get all the way down here. We still can get there, and it would only be wave 3 of C. So again, we're running in parallel with each other, that either this is an ABC or this is 1, 2, and we're dropping in a 3 of 3. So they have to run congruent here, but I can't tell you which is one's going to come out. I will trade both, of course, but it's during that when this is forming is you're going to get more clues, because depth, basically under an Elliott rule, this just needs to take out that, and this pretty much needs to count out as 5. And if it goes a little bit and only gets down here and breaks right there and roars, and this is going to really end up being like, okay, that was 1, this was 2, and then we got a 3 and a 4 and a 5. We'll see. Right? As more information is presented, then of course it gets integrated into what we're doing and how we view it. So all of the moving averages, by the way, starting on the 30, pretty much getting into gear for this market to continue to head lower. And all that needs to happen right now is the 50 needs to drop below. This is the 30-minute. The 50 needs to drop below the 200. Now I'm going to go up to the hourly, and we'll look at moving averages. Again, so we got the 200, broke it, got back to it. All right, I'm going to open it up so we can see it. Got below it. That was that great. It broke and boom. And in fact, it toyed with it. 1, 2, 3. This was the 4th try. And then the acceleration came, got back to it, and then ended up closing back up on it. And now we're into the globex session, and they're bringing it back lower. Not taking it too much, but it is going lower. So that becomes still in play. The daily chart on the moving averages is telling us, look at, again, sitting right on. This thing has now been hugging this 200 for basically 1, 2, 3. This is the globex, but it's definitely 3 days. It's just playing and hugging, actually 4. I'm going to include last, like the 31st. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this would be the 5th if it goes all day. So there's plenty going on, but that daily 200 is still basically holding. A solid break is going to favor, to be honest with you, is going to favor that this is a 3rd. But even again, as that C we've just discussed, that it can come all the way down to here, 14,100. We're at 14,800. So the market can actually drop another 700. And that would fulfill wave 3 of 3. Okay, so to just do a quick recap, I continue to hold to the count as presented. In other words, that the highs were in. I'm just going to try to get back to that daily, folks. Hold on 1 second. That we have counted out. That is the high. I'm continuing to keep the intermediate wave 1 at that low. And also, it could still interchangeable with an intermediate wave A. As this needs to be resolved. So now we're into this portion where we're resolving. One resolve is that this remains A, and we're in an ABC And that has the potential and has the green light basically to get itself down to 14,100 or a little bit lower. So we still have plenty of room to drop. The wave count would fit pretty cleanly as to what the C wave could look like. Outside of that, we also going into the possibility intermediate wave 1, and this ends up being the completion point for intermediate wave 2. Not sure how just yet, but it may be. And then this would be the starting juncture for an intermediate third wave, and we'd be looking for much lower levels. Then we're looking for lots of breaks and eventually a break below 12,943. As this larger intermediate degree 5-wave decline continues. All right, so we have upside covered because of, but I think I'm not sure when it's going to start. So if indeed we're to that first, the choice A, and this is an ABC, we get down there, and once it's complete, the next step would be to throw in a C wave and come back all the way back above 15,263. That is a 68, I believe. That is still out there. That is still right now. It's following it pretty cleanly. So that's why it's staying in first place. So I actually think most likely we get down to here, but that still leaves open the possibility for the market to turn, rally like a you know what, get itself back above 15,268, and be heading up to those additional levels that we have discussed. And I would re-enter that. So we'd be looking for a C wave. We'd be looking for an intermediate wave 2 to finish. And I believe we had numbers that took us above 16,000 for sure, but not break above 16,768. So those are still out there, and we'll go day by day. All right, I am going to conclude right there, and the next update will be on Wednesday, April 6th.